Welcome to the SocietyPod, a podcast for entrepreneurs, marketers, and leaders. Here's your host, Jessica Yarmy.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the SocietyPod. My guest today has spent the last 10 years of her career in health, fitness, and beauty brands, including Extend Bar, SoulCycle, Exponential Fitness, Myodex, and she just recently stepped into the president role of goGLOW. Congratulations on that role. Welcome to the show, Tori Johnston.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I'm really thrilled to be here, and it's nice to see you again.
It's great to see you, and I'm so excited to catch up with you. Specifically about this role, what inspired you to make this change and join the goGLOW team?
Yeah, I have spent about the past 9 months consulting for different brands, and I love the wellness industry. I've spent a lot of my career in fitness, and I thought maybe it was time to extend myself beyond fitness a little bit. So I consulted for a waxing franchise, a facial company, a venture capital firm, a nonprofit, and ultimately I decided that I wanted to be in franchising and I wanted to be with an emerging brand and found myself in the beauty space. So I joined goGLOW in October as the brand president, and I'm really entering into a new industry in beauty, but still, keeping my roots in franchising.
They have such a big presence. I was looking them up online and I didn't realize how big the goGLOW system was. How many locations do you have open right now?
We currently have 10 locations open, but the company's been around for 10 years. So the founder, Melanie Richards, is from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and she created the goGLOW experience and service and was really just tinkering with that for years in the Twin Cities and decided to go into franchising at the end of 2022 and started selling franchises in 2023. So it's relatively new, and we definitely are an emerging brand, but have sold about 65 units right now and have about 15 or 20 in development to open beginning of next year.
That's amazing. That's going to be an exciting first year in the role for you.
Yeah, very much so.
I know your background is marketing and you're a brand lover, just like I am. And how much of the goGLOW brand and the strength of that brand was a decision maker for you and like stepping into this presidency?
Yeah, that's a great question. I honestly didn't see myself working in a spray tanning company. I just saw myself in a leadership role within an emerging brand in franchising, and I loved and was, drawn towards the beauty space. But once I started realizing that the goGLOW brand is beautiful and it exudes confidence within our customers, I was all in. We have proprietary formulas, we have a patent on our machines, and it really is a holistic approach to skincare with our own skincare line that I was like, okay, we're checking all the boxes here. I love the brand. I love that we have an ownership of the marketplace and we're producing a best-in-class product that's actually good for you. So that was something I could get behind. Like, I think back to my days as a teenager and I would go tanning in a tanning bed before prom or homecoming or graduation. And the thought of doing that now is just absolutely makes me sick to my stomach. And so the idea that you can, get that same glow and that same feeling and look like you have a goGLOW or look like you have a tan without having to go in a tanning bed was something that really was, the lights turned on for me. And I thought, wow, this is something I can get behind.
The brand is so cool and it's just so clean. And you could definitely see it being a franchise that takes off. And with 65 additional sold, you're well on that path. As you started, did you go in with here's a 100-day plan or here's a 90-day plan, or did you really just how did you approach this transition, just because you're really at the tail end of your transition right now?
Yeah, I felt like I was dating goGLOW for about 9 months. So I had met the team over at Front Street Equity Partners years ago and had been in contact with them about some of the brands that they were strategic investors in, and one of those was goGLOW. So I was sitting on the sidelines for a while, learning about the business, following what they were doing, and starting to understand what made them so special and unique in the marketplace. And then I'm originally also from Minnesota. So I sent out a group text to my mom, sisters, sister-in-laws, and friends and said, has anybody been to goGLOW? What do you think? And resoundingly got back, goGLOW is the best. It's the only place I go for a spray tan. Of course I go to goGLOW. Of course I've heard of it. And so that to me was a really exciting indicator. This is something I was going to move forward with, but then I need to experience it for myself. So in those first 100 days, and it's, I am getting to the end of that 100 days now, I've spent a few trips to Minneapolis. I've spent some time with the team there, and I'm really trying to understand, what makes the service from start to end, the 20 minutes that we have with somebody, best in class in the spray tanning industry. Those first 100 days, I've really tried to sink my teeth into the actual experience and what's happening in our stores, as well as meeting all the people and all the different vendors we work with. That's kind of the beauty of franchising, is that we bring all the best in class vendors into our portfolio, and then we have our franchisees that have either been in the system before I got here or are new every single month as they're joining at confirmation day, where we can really start our relationship off on the right foot. So it's an exciting time, but we're really just getting started.
Did your group chat focus group give you any feedback or opportunities that you should pursue as the president of goGLOW? Did they give you any advice for your first 100 days?
It's actually really interesting because we, again, have all these products that we recommend for you to use to enhance your goGLOW. And part of those products are using them before you come in. So we have a cleanse, a goGLOW cleanse that we use that you should be using on your skin before you come in, so that you are not stripping your body of all those amino acids. You're not stripping your skin of all that moisture, but you really are going to enhance your goGLOW experience. And one of the things that I heard from my group text that went out to my mom and my sisters and friends was really, I wish I had known about this sooner, because I would have bought those products immediately before my spray tan for this big event. So I think now that they have those products in their homes, they know that they can use those before they come in. It gets me thinking, like, how do we get products in hands of people before they actually show up?
The product element is really, that's unique for me. And I know for you, coming from more of like a typical franchise environment where your service is your main offering, it seems like you guys have not a 50-50 split, but like a large percentage of your business is coming from these products. So how do you see the like products coming into the offering, and like what opportunities do you see on the product side to grow bigger?
Yeah, I'll give a big shout out here to Melanie Richards, our founder. She decided that she's like, I'm going to make my own products because nobody else is making the products that I want. So early on, when she, before she was franchising, she decided to go out and find manufacturers and, different chemists and scientists to create the products exactly the way that she wanted, that had best in class ingredients, that also had the results that she was looking for to complement goGLOW, her goGLOW services. And so to me, it was, that was part of the business from day one and will always remain that way. But one thing that we've done differently is not bring in a bunch of other third-party products. So we have one sunscreen provider that we use, and then we don't sell a bunch of other junk in the retail lobby wall. We're not selling every other brand under the sun related to skincare, because our team is really not an expert at that, and it also doesn't enhance your goGLOW. There's only a few things that you should really be doing to your skin after you have a spray tan, and we want to make sure that we're providing those on our retail shelves so you can grab them and take them home easily and can extend your goGLOW on the road. And so we've been really specific about which products we want to offer in the stores, and I think that that's a decision that's not always easy, and there's a lot of other brands that want to be on our shelves, but we've decided that we're only going to have products that actually enhance your goGLOW, and most of those are the ones we've created ourselves.
Yeah, and then you have control over the whole journey, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we get 20 minutes with somebody. So the second that they walk in the door, we greet them, do our consultation, take them back to their spray booth. The actual treatment itself takes 5 or 10 minutes max. And then we come out to the front desk, recommend products, enroll them in membership, and get them to check out and book their next appointment. So it's a pretty quick service. And that product placement in our retail wall and at the end of your service really is a no-brainer.
I'm sure you're already attaching automations to the membership experience, but do you end up attaching automations to your product experience? Like, I know you bought the glow cleanse 4 weeks ago, and it's time for you to re-up. So do you have automations?
Yes, exactly.
And like,
I love how your brain is thinking, because that's definitely one of the first things I ask too. And we do have a way of tagging in our POS system which kind of user you are. And so if you're a lover of Hydrate, which is our amazing hydrating lotion, we have that tagged. And so we know that you haven't seen us in 60 days and this is your favorite product. Here it is, or here it is for Black Friday, or now we have a travel size available. And so we do have a way of tracking that and automating it. We don't necessarily push it out as much. It's not necessarily a text message of like, your Hydrate's running out, come buy it right now. But I think there's more we can do to make it feel natural in the cycle of when you're going to come in for your next spray tan.
Like a little subtle reminders.
Yeah. The other thing I'll mention is like, there's a group of people that spray tan just for events, right? Weddings, graduations, bridesmaids, and homecoming, and things like that. And then there's a large group of people that just want to have a natural glow year round. And so I think that focusing on the group of people that really do want to come in more often is where we're going to get the most bang for our buck, but also be able to introduce some of those automations that, really make sense for the life cycle of keeping up with your goGLOW and not just for those event specific things.
Is your business seasonal? Like, what are the prime seasons for spray tanning?
Yeah, it is seasonal outside of those main events, but it's not necessarily as seasonal as you would think. So the busiest time of year is definitely around spring break for us. So leading up into spring break, February and March, I feel like every school system and every, kid's schedule has a fall break, a winter break, and hopefully a long, spring break. And so those times for us are really, really busy with people getting ready to prep to go on vacation. That is just nonstop as well. And then we get super busy around those key holidays and a lot of the high school stuff. Again, the proms and graduations. Thinking back to my experience that I mentioned earlier, I can't imagine sending my daughter or son to a tanning bed to get tan before prom now. And so everyone's coming in for a goGLOW, and they all want to come in with their friends, and they all have the same date for their prom. So we are absolutely packed during those weeks leading up to some of those fun high school events.
You mentioned you have 65 units sold. How many of those are going to open in 2025, or are there any other growth shout outs that you want to give to your brand?
We are expecting to open about 10 or 15 in Q1 of next year. So they're really just kicking off that process. It's going to be a very busy spring. But again, we want to get them open for that spring break time. But we're set to open about 25 or 30 locations next year specifically, and then repeat that for the next 3 years. We have been really, really diligent about choosing franchise partners that we think are going to be here for the long haul and make really great business owners and operators. And I think we could have probably been double the size that we are right now, but we've had a really discerning eye when choosing partners. I think that's something that's really been important to the brand previously, but I want to double down on as we continue to grow.
Who is the typical goGLOW franchise owner? Do you have a persona attached to them?
Yeah, this one surprised me a little bit. I thought it would just be lovers of spray tanning, but it's actually the typical corporate refugees that are really looking to make a change. It is passionate business owners. We have a lot of people that have had franchising experience before or have owned a local business, and they are passionate about their local community. And then lastly would just be those enthusiasts in the beauty space. Somebody that has had a spray tan before, or loves to get their lashes done, or nails or hair, and they're just, truly a consumer of all things beauty service related. Those people come to us really organically as well because they love the goGo service and have been looking for something like this in their local market.
And are you mainly attracting multi-unit owners, or are you selling one by one, or what's your strategy with franchising?
Yeah, I always think multi-unit is the way to go in emerging brands, so you can protect your territory. So we are selling the majority of these as multi-unit, 2 or 3 at a time. I'm not necessarily interested in selling, 10 or a huge entire area development right now, because I want to make sure that the operators we're choosing can really operate the heck out of the units that they have. And so we're being very strategic, but we are looking towards multi-unit at every single time.
And do you have owners that are coming to you that already own other franchises? Are there franchises that are partnering well with your franchise?
Yeah, we do. We have franchise partners that own in Restore Hyper Wellness, Amazing Lash, Dry Bar, and a few others that are, reputable brands. So that's been a really great experience for us because they understand the inner workings of franchising and they know how to open and operate a business. And this is a new brand and a new experience for them. But what they also love about goGLOW is the labor model. So our labor model is really unique. And I think that it draws people that used to have a really labor intense franchise experience into something with goGLOW that has a little bit less of a labor focus. Our team members operate, majority of their income is based on tips. And so they love working at goGLOW. They work a few shifts a week and they're all part-time. So it doesn't require a manager, and it also doesn't require any licensed professionals. So we don't touch people. So we don't have to have estheticians on staff. We don't have to have a nail license or a lash license or any other, hair or beauty related licensing, which is easier to attract talent. And it's also easier to keep talent unless the rest of your business if that person leaves. And the team that's coming is, we train them on our side, and it's, I would say, relatively easy to find people that want to work in this industry on nights and weekends, or even that just want part-time work and make great money on tips.
Well, and then you can almost move your staff between, like they could work at Dry Bar, they could work at Amazing Lash, and then they could also flow some hours over to goGLOW.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we find a lot of synergies between that, especially if you are a multi-unit owner in a major metro market and you have several units. The staff likes to experience all the different brands, and they really, really like working at goGLOW. That was one of the other things that really surprised me about this brand, but also made me love it, is that everybody who works here loves the experience because they're one-on-one with the client. They're making people feel great and leaving confident. And it really is a quick service. Highlighting someone's hair for 3 or 4 hours, or having a really long hour-long fitness class with a bunch of sweaty people, it really is one-to-one, in and out, leave feeling amazing and on to the next. And so that part of it, of employees loving the experience, has been a welcome surprise.
The brands that you mentioned where you have franchise owner crossover, like crossing over with Restore, crossing over with Dry Bar, crossing over with Amazing Lash, like all those systems are really mature, built up, fully supported systems. Yes. Have you really been able to like pick the brain of those owners and kind of involved them in your process for building your support structure at goGLOW?
Yes, and I am so lucky that we have people that have seen how this is done at a very large scale, because I've also seen that in previous roles, but sometimes when you're in an emerging brand, it might not feel the same way. And so I have tapped these franchise partners that have seen this at a larger scale to think about the things that we could potentially focus on for the next 6 to 12 months, and then 12 months to 2 years from now, that will make this franchise even stronger. We're also going to institute or charter a franchise advisory board in the coming year, and I think that's going to be really my tight-knit group to get a sounding board for what's working and what needs improvement, and really just bringing ideas to the table from their experience at goGLOW, but their experience at other brands as well, because like you said, those brands are very tried and true, established and beloved, and I know that that's the future of goGLOW as well.
And the journey from 10 locations to 50 locations, as you know, it's the most chaotic journey that there is, because your support at 10 is drastically different than your support at 50, is drastically different than your support at 100, so to have a franchise owner resources or franchise owner partners that understand, here's what we're trying to get to, but here's where we are right now, and here's how much we can bite off right now without sinking ourselves, and just being realistic around like where we need to focus at any given time.
Yeah, I keep on thinking about like the way that we train our staff, the way that we make resources available to franchise partners, and the way that we train the entire franchise organization to pay attention to the most important parts of the business. That never ends. Like, that is constant, and we're really investing in that right now so that we can continue to do it over and over and over again. And there will always be new bells and whistles. There's always going to be new platforms and potentially new vendors and different ways of doing things or strategies that we lean into. But I'm really focused on how do we train the people and how do we make great operators out of the partners that we have. And that will never change over the course of the entire 10 years of their agreement or the growth of the brand.
It definitely seems like in looking at the website, the word precision kind of comes up on the service side, and like we offer this service with precision, but then that same word like pulls over to the franchising side. And then as you're talking about your founder's journey on the product side, like it seems like everything is maybe a little bit slower, but more precise. Do you think about the growth and the support through that lens?
Absolutely. And it comes back to what you were saying with the service itself. If you've ever had a spray tan, majority of them are done in like a tanning booth where you step in and they just spray tan solution all over you and hope it ends up on the right part of your body and you don't get orange hands and orange fingers. If you use that same analogy to think about how we just like spray a bunch of information to our franchise partners, none of that is going to stick in the right place. We really are very precise in the actual application of our spray tan. And you're getting a consultation directly from your spray specialist about what your desired outcome is. And so it is kind of that boutique approach to spray tanning, but it really does leave with amazing results. And I think it matches what the customer is looking for rather than just blast you in the face with an orange spray and hope it works. So that same model for franchise partners, like we really do work one-on-one with them to coach and develop themselves and their teams to give the best goGLOW experience. And right now we have really dedicated team members and franchise business coaches that work with those teams one-on-one. And then we get these teams together and we get these partners together in a way where they can share best practices. Yesterday, I was on a call about grassroots marketing, and I feel like I've done everything under the sun for grassroots marketing my entire life. And I've lived a few tales to tell, but there's always great ideas to be found in those groups and in those meetings. With precision, we can do that really, really well. And I feel like diving in one layer deeper with franchise partners as to what's working and what's not is what's going to make us precise going forward.
Are you looking at new territories through that same precision lens? And like, are you targeting specific regions or are you targeting specific like zip codes? Or how are you thinking about your expansion efforts and where you're focusing your growth for the upcoming years?
Yeah, I like to see that we are popping up in many different types of places, but more recently we've seen what I like to call like the smile states. So everywhere from California down to Texas, all the way up to the Northeast corridor, where people do want to be tan year round. And that is kind of the expectation. But then they also don't want to lay out in the sun and they don't want to hurt their skin or make it worse than it needs to be already with sun damage. And so they are looking to experiences like goGLOW on a more regular basis. Then there's some locations that surprise me that absolutely crush it. And those are your first ring suburbs of major metro areas. So for example, we just opened a location in Rock Hill, Missouri, which is outside of St. Louis. They opened 2 weeks ago and are practically sold out on their schedule every single day, absolutely crushing it. And these are suburban moms and beauty professionals and working professionals in this area that just want to have a goGLOW before the holidays and they want to feel great in their skin. And this is part of their beauty routine. So I get surprised by some of those suburb locations as well. And I think they're not worth counting out. And we're really thinking about development in that way, which is, which markets have the greatest amount of people that are going to be interested in spray tanning. The other thing I'll mention is people always ask, like, do we go by competitors? There's a competitor down the street. There's a competitor that does it this way or that way. And my answer is yes. If people are already getting a spray tan in that market, we can absolutely step in with a superior product and give a best, more precise spray tan. And so I definitely welcome the competition. And if there is already a large interest in spray tanning in that area, I say bring it on.
Are there trends that you're seeing in either the tanning space or the spray tanning space that you're watching and looking to leverage in the upcoming years?
That's a really great question. I think most of the beauty trends that we're seeing are around the actual products themselves. So what's in the products, how are they applied, and how are they consumed? One thing that also surprised me when joining goGLOW is that we have a patent on our machines. And I was thinking to myself, that's really cool. We have this big machine that we have you stand in that we spray you against, but does it need to be patented? What's so different about it? And actually the way that you're inhaling the spray itself is being pulled back into the machine and out through a vent, so it's not getting stuck in a tent or in a booth that you're inhaling, and it can be really bad for you. And so that patent was really important. I didn't understand the importance of that until I was actually in this role. And again, something that Melanie had been building for years is getting this machine right so that it actually wasn't harming the people that are in there and ingesting any of the the fumes or the spray tanning solution itself. And so those types of things I think are going to come down the pipeline in terms of trends beyond just picking more clean ingredients. It's also how you're inhaling this spray tanning solution, and goGLOW's got a great solution for that.
I feel like the trend on the fitness side is the same, right? Where it's like, yes, we want the aesthetics, but we want the holistically healthy approach to getting to the aesthetics. So that's interesting that you're seeing the same thing on the spray tanning side. Talk to me about your relationship with Melanie. It's like an interesting decision for her to like have you step in. And so where's her swim lane going to be? Where's your swim lane going to be? And how have you like interacted with her so far?
Yeah, it's been a great partnership. Like I mentioned, we were dating for a while. I'm also from Minnesota, and so I feel like that gave us an instant Minnesota connection, which is always great. And her and I have different skill sets, but I think she also knows where she needs support and where she can run in her lane. And she also is just so passionate about skincare and the skincare experience that will never go away. Anything that comes on her plate, whether it's, operational or marketing or finance or auditing or all these other fun things we get to deal with in the franchising world, that will never shake her love for the actual customer experience. And so my, partnership with her is to really let her thrive in that way and be a spokesperson for advocating for clients and for the industry as a whole. I'm excited that she can continue to do that with a little bit more support on the franchising infrastructure that I bring. And together we've worked really well together. I also just admire her completely for being such a entrepreneur herself. Like, she can talk the talk and walk the walk for these franchisees. Yes, she wasn't a franchisee herself, but she has done all of the same things that you would need to do to open a business. She has leases, she hires team members, she orders equipment, she has snow delays. Like, she's done all of the things that impact a regular business, and she's found a way to do that with grace and with grit. And so I think that she has a lot of power and in her story to share with franchise partners in that way.
I could see where it would be a great partnership because I see you moving with grace and grit all the time as well. And I also see you being very egoless in your approach to leadership. And so I think where there's two leaders, but there's different swim lanes and there's different skill sets, I think that's great that you're going to be able to grow this brand together, and how much impact it's going to be to have two strong people who are pushing the brand forward versus one person really pulling and trying to move the whole system on their own.
Thank you. That's the greatest compliment. I appreciate it.
Well, let's move on to like you as a person and your own career journey. It's been 10 years now that you've been in fitness and wellness and health and beauty. Did you set out to have that be your path, or did that really just kind of become your path?
It became my path over time, but I would say that I've always been drawn to the fitness and wellness industry. I didn't know starting out, out of college that was a career that I could have and a career that I could thrive in for many decades. I always viewed that as a hobby. Early on in my career, I was working in advertising during the day at a Fortune 500 company, and I was teaching Pure Barre at 6 a.m. and 6 o'clock at night just because I loved fitness. And I didn't realize that there was leadership roles and there was franchises that needed to be built and there were marketing roles that needed to be had within all of these organizations. So my first true step into a professional role within fitness was at SoulCycle, and I absolutely went, headfirst into all things marketing, wellness, and fitness, and was truly there during their glory years, in my opinion. So I got really, really lucky with that timing and that role, but I also grew tremendously as a person, as a marketer, and as a leader while I was there. So I met the best of both worlds in that role, and from there I've just been propelled into the fitness and wellness industry ever since. And I've seen that grow beyond traditional fitness, like you mentioned, like the wellness industry is expanding into a more holistic approach. And I'm seeing that, wellness is now meeting longevity, which is meeting beauty, which is meeting lifestyle. And so all of those things seem to be merging. And the step into beauty for me felt like the next right thing after spending 10 years in the fitness specific industry.
If you weren't working in fitness or beauty or wellness, what would you be doing?
I have thought about that so many times. I think I would be in the similar industry, but maybe on the hospitality side. I love the idea of hospitality being ingrained into every step of the consumer experience. And so I'm always, keeping my eyes and ears peeled for the best, most reputable brands in the hospitality industry. But I also think a completely different career shift would potentially be a nurse. I don't think I'm going to go back and do that now, but I just have so much admiration for nurses. And I like the idea of helping people as much as you can, and then leaving and then trying to do it again the best you very much you can the next day, maybe without, the in-between. So I've always thought about that, but I'm pretty committed to what I'm doing now, and I don't think I'm going back to nursing school.
That's a pretty maternal career path though, to have, like trying to help people via fitness, trying to help people via nursing. And then I know you are also busy mom. How do you juggle all of these things that you're working on?
I always tell people I have no advice. I haven't done it right. There's always something to learn, but I would say, for me, if I were to if I were to spend more time with my family or have more time, I would just find other ways to work. I would use those extra hours in the day to work more. I wouldn't just work less. And so it is part of just my grind that's innate in me. So I would need to put that passion somewhere. And at times I find myself doing that more into family and friends. Other times it's more into work, or just, all of those things mixed together. And there really isn't a perfect balance. I'm not the kind of person that closes my laptop and then signs out for the night, even though it drives my husband crazy. My eyes and ears are always on, what's right ahead of me. And most of the time that's business. But I do, value taking a step away, taking time with friends and family, and really just trying to soak up all the bittersweet parts of being a parent. I have a 3.5-year-old right now, and it's just the cutest, most challenging, sweet little age ever. And I never want to forget that. But I also don't want to completely step aside and let my career not be where it could be. I was actually having this conversation with my mom a few weeks ago. My generation is a little bit older to have kids. And that also means that I think it puts you at the height of your career, or closer to the height of your career, when you have little children. When my parents were my age, they were also very successful and entrepreneurs and working in corporate America, but their kids were 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, different age groups. And I've still got a little one. So I think it's an interesting challenge to have little ones and be in a big seat like mine.
It is a challenge, but as you know, there's more and more ways to navigate it. And when you're in the right employer, company structure, there's always ways to merge worlds, I guess. you
Yes.
remember Henry coming into the exponential fitness office and like working like under my
I love
desk on
that.
his like laptop the whole time. But he still remembers that. Like that was a
Yep.
core memory for him, and not in a bad way. Like I think he heard things and like felt like a part of things even though he wasn't. It was still like, oh, I'm doing like big boss kind of things.
Yeah. I mean, I remember growing up as a kid, I would go to my dad's office on Saturdays. We would go into nobody else was there. He would sit in his back office and do paperwork, which I didn't really know at the time what that was. I was like helping him doing filing. And then I remember, another visit, Dad all of a sudden had the front office. And I was like, I wonder what happened. We used to go back there and now we're in this big shiny office in the front. But, now I have such an appreciation for decades of work to get to that point. And so I remember observing that as a kid too and wanting to, work as hard as both of my parents did, which I think has always been a driving force for me.
Well, and you talked about your drive. And so where does it come from?
I think it comes from being a student athlete. So I was a rower at the University of Kansas. I think being part of a collegiate athlete, being a collegiate athlete and being part of a team or a university and representing the university in that way, there is no way that you can fail your team members. And so rowing really is truly like the most, I think, team sport that there is. Setting yourself up for success personally means that you're setting your team up for success to win or to, excel. And so I've always thought of myself as a contributor to the larger team. And in that way, I have so much drive to, earn my keep on a team, even if I am in a president role or if I'm in a larger organization. Like I believe that I'm part of a larger team at heart. So that's how I see myself. And I think that's where my grit and my drive really comes from. But I owe a lot of that to being a student athlete.
I think the team element is huge. I would consider myself to be a fairly driven individual, but if I'm on a team, I'm even more psychotic because it's not me letting myself down. It's me letting my team down. And I can't deal with letting my team down. Like it's that accountability of like, I must bring my best day after day versus like an individual pursuit. You're like, I'm trying to bring my best every day, but then you sometimes slack and it's like, oh, bummer. But like when you're on a team, you just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm letting Tori down. Like I can't let Tori down. I must try my best.
I know. I completely agree. And you were a college athlete too. Like you get it. There is a different level of pressure, especially in those like younger, I guess, coming of age years where you start to make those practices and you start to kind of write your own playbook about how you want to show up as an individual. And for me, there was just no choice of failing, but also no choice of not being a part of that team mentality like you were talking about. So I think that got ingrained in me and then just reinforced in my college years. There's
definitely a statistic, and I think it's 92% of women leaders were female athletes at a high level. And you could see why, not just because of that team dynamic, but I think your ability to like schedule yourself and like have multiple things running at any given time, and that growth mindset and the like relationship to failure and losses. Like I think there's a lot that's there it's really healthy. Yes. Are you going to encourage or strongly encourage your boy to play sports?
Without encouraging, he is sports obsessed. All he does is want to play sports all day, every day. And so I think it's just part of his future no matter what. But looking back, I never had pressure from my parents to play sports in college for the idea of playing sports in college. That was not it at all. It was more about if this is something you're interested in. I didn't plan to be a professional rower or anything like that. Like that was not my trajectory or my interest. And I think I wouldn't necessarily wish that upon my son either. I just want him to do what he enjoys doing and where he can really find, a love of sport or a dedicated team or a community that he loves. So I'm not trying to make him go off and be a professional athlete or a college athlete, but he is an insane little sports obsessed 3-year-old.
And he plays soccer right now, right?
Yeah, he does. He plays soccer, he does karate, he does all the things.
Girl,
you gotta burn off that energy. Right. I know, right?
You're absolutely raising him right. Give me an example of a time when you've maybe had a downtime in your career, and like how did you navigate yourself through a setback season to get into a comeback season?
That's a great question. 2 things came to mind. One is when I was leaving the corporate world most recently to come to this role that I'm in now and really deciding how I wanted to spend time making my next right decision. I knew deep in my heart that I was going to make a change and that I wanted to step away and do something different, but not knowing exactly what that thing is can be a little bit like tough in the head, right? You're trying to think about what's right, but you know it's something different. And so I really try to invest in myself and spend time and energy thinking about what I wanted to do next. But that is also a challenge. It was weird to not, go into an office every day or wake up and have a full calendar of Zoom meetings and kind of, start my day on my own, if you will. But I also really look back at that time fondly and think that I did all the right things internally to make the right decision to be here where I am now. The other thing that I think about is living in the fitness world during COVID was really, really tough. I know you experienced that too. And there were some really, really tough moments of unknown, but also, being in a leadership role at a company where nobody knows what's going to happen next, but you have to have a plan is something that you have to act on your feet and move really quickly, but you don't have as much confidence about what's ahead of you. And so looking back and trying to make those decisions of, what to do when you have to close down studios or stores or masks or no masks and all of that, I feel like I made the best right decisions in that moment, but it was ultimately very hard to feel confident in those decisions given the craziness of the world at the time and how fast all of those things were moving. So someday I feel like someone's going to write a book about leadership during COVID, but I'm also really sick of talking about it. So I'm like, was that 2 years ago? Was it 10 years ago? I'm not exactly sure, but I can tell you that it was very formative in the way that I approach moving quickly on my feet and making decisions.
And if you can navigate that, what can't you do, right?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it was truly the test for our generation and our times. Lived through it and on the other side, but those were definitely difficult times for a lot of business owners and corporate employees like myself.
As you think about your own skill set, what do you think is your superpower?
I have been told, and I'm starting to believe this, but sometimes you need to hear it from somebody else, that I make people on my team feel comfortable enough to do their job and make decisions to the best of their ability. I don't come down hard. I feel like I can be very clear and create a rhythm for my team where they have expectations about how to hear feedback from me. But I also want to give them the power to make decisions. Everyone's adults who works here, everyone's adults who works at the companies that we're at, and they can arm themselves with the information to make the best right decision. And I want to give them that confidence. I realize everybody on my team is not mini me's. They're not going to make the exact same decision that I'm going to make. And I think that that's really important, but I want them to have the autonomy to do that. And so I've been told that's my superpower. I don't know the best way to wrap it up into a sentence, but making my team feel comfortable to make decisions, I think is something that I've been praised for in the past.
I think tying that back to leading through COVID and just like having to react but not overreact. You definitely have a levelness to how you show up in your day. A lot of people, myself included, will go like high and low and like kind of be like a zigging and zagging, and you definitely like have a level, like predictable kind of way that you show up, which I think whether you're navigating COVID, whether you're opening 15 locations in 3 months, whatever large task you have in front of you that seems daunting and will definitely be stressful, there's definitely benefit to approaching those stressful up and down scenarios with like we're going to be fine, like everything's good. And I'm proud of you for like getting to a place in your career where like all the work you've done up until this point has really like, it's culminated in this opportunity. And I'm super excited for you. And I'm excited to see what you do and where you take the goGLOW brand.
I appreciate that. I always tell people there's like a few people that are a few steps ahead of you in life that you can always look up to. And I feel like you've been one of those people too. So I'm always like, what would Jessica Yarmy do? And I think I still have a spreadsheet saved on my computer that's like the Jessica Yarmy marketing special. There's some things that I've taken from you along the way. And I'm just so appreciative of your mentorship too.
I'm appreciative of you as well. We've covered like a ton of ground today. Is there anything that we have not talked about that you want to talk about that's top of mind with you?
I would just share if anybody, wants to experience goGLOW, we have a bunch of locations open in the country. So it's just goGLOW.co rather than .com. So goGLOW.co if you want to check out our locations that are open. And I challenge you to just go in with open eyes and open arms and think about the experience as a whole, because it might be something that piques your interest of being a franchisee, or it might be somewhere you want to work, or potentially, a place that you want to frequent as a customer.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of this exciting next step with us here on the SocietyPod.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the SocietyPod.